So once you download Tableau Public and open the app, what you'll get is something that looks like this. So this is our Tableau Public app. If you've used it before, you'll see there are things you can open in the middle. So these are the last visualizations I was working on in Tableau Public. And we can connect to a couple different file types. We can connect to an Excel file, a text file, so that would be something like a CSV or a tab delimited file. You can connect to Microsoft Access. You can also connect to a server here called OData, and that's a way to connect to some different server types. So for this example of getting started with Tableau, we're going to use this data set I have here, which I got from the Economic Modeling Specialists Incorporated, which is a group associated with Career Builder. So let's take a look at opening this in Tableau. So this is an Excel file, so I'm going to click Connect to Excel, and I'm going to navigate to where this data set is, and I'll click Open. And the first thing Tableau will do is give you a little preview of what your data looks like. So as you can see, it took all the things that were in the first row of my data set and used those as the names for these different variables. So we could see that all of these different variables are numbers. It gave this generation one a little ABC because it sees that it's text. It gave city a special little symbol that looks like a little globe here because it recognized that that's a location. And when you're dealing with locations in Tableau Public, there are actually a number of built-in geographic roles that you can see here: area code, MSA, city, congressional district. These are all geographic roles that don't need longitude or latitude. MSA, you can see, is one of those, but Tableau didn't automatically assign it as a geographic role, so we can go back and make sure that it does. So I'm going to say that this is an MSA. And once our data looks good and you're pretty satisfied that everything got placed correctly, we can go on to move to Sheet 1. This is the main editing view when you're making data visualizations in Tableau. First, let's make a map of where all of our different data points are. So I'm just going to double click on MSA, and that'll automatically map all of the MSAs that I have information for. Now, if we hover over these, we can see what the MSA is. Of course, I doubt that my readers really know cities by their MSA number. So what I can do is drag city onto tooltip, and that will put that on there as well. So now these are a little more descriptive. Another thing we can do is put the change in jobs on size. Now, bigger ones have a bigger change in jobs and smaller ones have a smaller change in jobs. Now, because we have negatives, what it's doing is making negatives really small and positives really big. I might want to make these absolute values so that the change is relative to the size, and we can decide if it's negative or positive by color. One thing that's new in our newest version of Tableau is that you can do calculations right in these little pills, is what we call them. So instead of doing a sum here, we're going to do ABS, which stands for absolute value. And that makes it so now these are absolute values of the change in jobs. And if we put the percent change in jobs on color, now we can see if it's red, that is a negative change in jobs, and if it's green, that's positive. Another thing that you can do in Tableau that's really easy to do and really adds to the interaction is that we can make filters. So remember, I have data here for two generations, for millennials and baby boomers. And the point of this data set is to compare them. So one thing I might want to do is make what's called a quick filter. This way, I can easily flip between these two. And I can change this. Right now it's checkboxes. And I could change this if I wanted it to only be able to choose one at a time. So now I could see baby boomers, millennials. So now we have a map where we can compare baby boomers versus millennials and what their job changes look like. Let's move on and make another chart. All we have to do is click the New Sheet button. So let's take occupation put it on rows, and let's do the jobs in 2013. And as you just double click things and start to fill them in, you might want to try a couple different charts. And while you're first getting started, a really good way to do this is by clicking the Show Me menu. Now what Show Me does is it tells you, with the information you have on here, these are all the different chart types you can make. So I could easily turn this into a tree map, bar chart, packed bubbles. There's a lot of different options here. And any of the gray ones, it's telling me what I'm missing in order to be able to make that kind of thing. For this, I think I just want to make a simple bar chart. And we could compare jobs in 2007 to 2013. Perhaps we want to compare the different generations this way. Maybe look at the change in jobs again. So now that we have these two different charts, it would be great if we could get them to interact with each other. And we can do that by putting them on a dashboard. So I'm going to click the New Dashboard button down here. And the first thing I'm going to do is decide what size this dashboard is going to be. So I'm going to make here something 650 by 650 about. And the first thing I'm going to do is just drag one of these sheets out here. And so there's my map, and I can drag it out. And I can do the same thing with my bar chart. Now one thing we can do, and the whole point of really the power of Tableau, is that we can make these two charts interact with each other. One way we can do that is by making this map into a filter. So very similar to how we made a quick filter for generation here. Now when we click on any city, we'll see the information just for that city. Now when we're ready to share our story with the world, all we have to do is go to File and save to Tableau Public As. So this is the difference between going through Tableau Public versus going through the full desktop, which you can get a license for via IRE, in that here you can see in order to save, I do have to sign on to Tableau Public and save this by uploading it to the web. So I'll give it a little name here, and I'll hit Save. And it will open here in the Tableau Public website like we saw before. And this is a live view of what my dashboard looks like, Liddy. So here's her article here on the New York Daily News website. And here is one of the first Tableau visits. She actually has a couple embedded throughout this article. But here's the main one here. You can see she has a line chart that shows the rise in summonses and for and that's compared to stop and frisk and other kinds of arrests. And she also has what they're being charged with. And you can see she has some great design work that she's done here to make it really clean looking